Hello there, I hope you're doing well. So this is the second lesson of our web development series where you'll get to learn the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript so that you can build really cool websites. If you've not watched lesson 1, I would highly recommend that you start there. Otherwise, we're at lesson 2 today. We'll start by looking at what tables are and how we can create basic tables in HTML. So let's take a look at tables. So a table is basically used to store data in the form of rows and columns. And if I can show it to you here, let's pick this color. This section is considered a row. This section is considered another row. This section is considered the third row here. In this case, this is the fourth row. This is the fifth row. So if you organize data in a horizontal manner in a table, it's considered a row. If you organize or if you keep data in a vertical manner, it's called a column. So this is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, and then column 5. So the green ones are basically columns. I'm not sure if I can write it properly here. Columns, and the red ones are considered rows. It's important that you know this. I know it's very basic information if you already know it, but if you don't, it's important to know what is a row and what is a column so that it becomes easier for you to write it in code. So anyway, if you organize data horizontally, it's considered a row. If you organize data vertically, it's considered a column. And a table is nothing but a structure that allows you to store data in the form of rows and columns. Now, when we have rows and columns, every row or every column has a different kind of information stored within it. Let's see an example. So imagine that you're shopping online and you've added a few items to your cart, and now you want to look at what items are there in your cart right now. You click on your cart and you kind of see this information about all the products that you have in your cart right now, which can sometimes be presented to you in a table form. So let's assume that we're looking at some similar table like that. You will see that the table itself will have a heading called product code. In this case, it has a heading called product name. It has a heading called unit price, quantity, and total. Headings are nothing but the description that says what is stored within this column. These are all headings, and headings help you clarify what is being stored in this column here. So in this column, you have all the data that is stored there is for a product code. All the data that is stored within this column is product name, so on and so forth. Now, that is considered a heading for a table. You should always have headings for your table so that your users who are viewing that table know exactly what information is stored in that specific column. Then we have the body of the table, which is nothing but you match each of those headings and provide some data. So for example, here we have 5 headings. From here to here, we have almost 5 headings. In the body, whenever you create a row, you're going to provide data for all of those 5 headings so that it can be displayed in all of those 5 different columns or headings. And then finally, we have something called a data element, which is nothing but a singular value. We usually call this a cell. So a cell value is usually the data value that you're going to give to a specific section within a specific row and a specific column. Okay, so right now you just need to understand that there are 3 things in a table. You need to have headings, you need to have a body, and you need to have data values for each of the rows that you create in the body. Okay, now we're going to try and replicate this in HTML, right? So we'll go to VS Code and click on, let's say, open. So I'm gonna go to desktop and create a new folder called lesson 2 and click on open. Now I have that folder open and I want to create, usually the first file that you always create is index.html. You should know this from the first lesson. Now to add the boilerplate code or the skeleton, however you want to call that, you just press exclamation and press enter. It adds the boilerplate code for you. Change the title to, let's say, tables, and then save it. Now if you try to run this by clicking this icon here and click on run and debug, click on web app Chrome or whatever browser you want to use, you'll see it is empty right now, but it says tables here, so it is working fine. Now we want to try and create this. Okay, I will just remove all the extra things so it's easier to see. We're going to try to build this in HTML. So the first thing that you need to do is, if you remember from the first lesson, all the HTML code goes into the body element. So within the body element, I will write table, or you can even write it this way, table, the table tag. Okay, so to create a table, you should use the table tag. Table is an element, but to create the table, you need to use the table tag. It has an opening tag and it has a closing tag. So if you save this, go back, refresh by pressing Command R or Control R, depending on what operating system you're using, nothing happens because I don't have anything within this table element to display. So when you create a table tag or a table element, basically in HTML, you need to provide two things. You need to provide the table, T stands for table here, table head, so T head, and then you need to provide T body. Okay, and if you notice, this is what was highlighted here. You need a heading section and you need a body section. So if you save this, refresh, even now you cannot see anything, and that's exactly because we don't have any data to display. That's the reason. So let's start with the heading section right now. Just remember, when you create a table, you need to provide the heading, which is T head, and the body, which is T body. Now within the heading, we know that we have only one row. We have one row, but within that one row, we have 5 columns or 5 headings. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So whenever you create something in a table, you always start with the row. You check how many rows are there, and then that's the way to start. So here we only have one row. So I'm going to add the element for row, which is called TR, which represents table row. TR again has an opening tag and a closing tag. Now notice that I've added the TR tag within the T head, which is the heading section. So you need to make sure you're writing it at the correct place so that it works correctly. The reason I've written TR within the TH, because this section is considered the heading here. So this whole section here is considered a heading, and it's only one row. So that's why within the heading section, which is T head, I've written TR. Now within TR, we need how many headings? 5 headings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in order to write these, I have to use the tag. So within the row tag, I have to use something called TH, okay, which represents one cell. So when I write TH, it's going to represent only this part here. And within that, I can write the name, which is product code. Okay, if you save this, refresh, you can see it says product code here. So this is one heading. I need another heading for product name as in the table here. So we have product name here, which is the second one. And then we need unit price. So I'll write another TH because it's another heading, unit price. And then another heading for quantity, another heading for product total. So right now I have 5 headings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I save this, refresh, I have 5 headings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those are my headings. I have one row. So within the table, I have a heading section, and within that heading section, I just have one row, and I have 5 heading values, or 5 heading cells basically. Now we're done with this section. The heading section is done. So so we can move to the next one. We can move to the body section now. So within the body, how many rows do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Oops. 4. You have 4 rows. So what you're going to do is create 4 row tags. 1, 2, 3, 4. So right now you have 4 rows. That's why there are 4 row tags. Now, one by one, I'm going to add all of these values. And to add all of these values, I need to use something called TD. So an element called TD. So I'll go to the first row. Let me just comment it here so it becomes easy to see. So row 1, row 2, row 3, and then this is row 4. So we're in row 1 right now. We need 5 different values. To add those values, we can use an element called TD, which is the cell element to display data. We need 5 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So 5 TD elements, or which is called the data cell elements, to represent all of these values. I'll start with here. Okay, I'll start with this value. This is the first value that is going to be displayed. This is the second one. So we save that, refresh, and now you can see it has created the first row. I know it doesn't look like a table right now, but we'll just wait for it. So this is the first row, and we've created it using TR and TD. Similarly, we need to create the second row. So 5 values for data. So we need 5 TD elements. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's 5. Write the value TD. I'll show you one common mistakes that a lot of people make when they begin using the table element for the first time. If I refresh this, you can see it has created the row for me. For example, let's say I skip one of the columns. I need to have 5 data values, but I'm only showing 4 right now. So let's get rid of this. I only added 4. What is going to happen is it's going to shift everything to the right, and you will have one empty space for the remaining columns. So you have to be very careful about the elements you add and the placement of it. So it's beneficial to always keep checking when you're writing code to see that it is as it should be, like it is working as it should be. So in this case we need to add 2 before and then refresh, and you have another row, and then 2 more rows. I'll just do them quickly so that so that's it. We are done with our first table, but the one thing that is important to note here is that it actually doesn't look like a table. Like you don't have the lines to represent that it is a table. Usually we use styling to display how the table is going to look, but for now, because we're not studying CSS at the moment, what you can do is go to the table element, and you'll have an attribute called border. When you add this attribute, set it to 1, but with double quotes. So border equal to double quotes 1, save that, and if you refresh, now it looks like a table. It's not a fancy table, but it looks like one right now because of all the styling. So this is general basic way of creating a table in HTML. Now there are a few things that you can do to these tables that you create. For example, I don't like the fact that the product code and the product name, both of those headings, have the word product repeated in them. What I would like to do is maybe merge these two cells, and I'm sure you must have seen how to merge cells together. What happens is instead of displaying them as two different headings, you just combine them and show it as one heading. So how can we do that? For example, I want to merge these two columns. Instead of calling it product code, product name, I just want to call it product. One heading that says product. How can I do that? So in this case, what you can do is get rid of both of the headings here, because the headings are in this section, right? So we have T head, which has all the headings, and it has only one row at the moment. So we'll get rid of both of these. And if you save them and refresh, you can see it has gotten rid of the two headings and it moved all the remaining headings to the left, and you have two columns here that don't have any heading. We'll fix that. So what we're going to do is we will add a new heading called product. Okay. And since we want to join two columns, or we want to merge two columns together, you can add something called column span 2. This means merge columns, and this value specifies how many columns you want to merge. If you add 3 there, it will merge 3 columns. If you add 5 there, it will merge 5 columns. So right now I just want to merge 2 columns. So that's why I've added 2 here. So if we go back, refresh, now you can see the word product is actually designated for both the code and the name columns. And the remaining columns are as it is. Now, I'm happy with the fact that it is called product, but then it doesn't make sense to me here that what value is this and then what value is this. So what we can do is we can add another row in the heading. In the T head, we can add another row. So this is our first row, and then I want to add another row, and then I want to give it a heading called code and heading called name. If I go back, refresh, you can see it has code and then it has name. I like this way. I like the fact that it is shown in this manner. We know it is product. Both of these columns are product, but it gives you a little more detail about what this column has and then what this column has, right? But then on the side, you see that there is all these headings for the first row, but there's empty space for the second row. This is a problem. It doesn't look good, right? So this is where we study about row span. So now I have this heading. I want to merge it with the next row, the row below it. And I have this heading. I want to merge it with the row below it. Same for this one. I want to merge it with the row below it. So what I can do is I can go to these specific headings. So unit price, this is the heading that I want to merge. I can go there and write row span is equal to 2. Same for quantity. Row span is 2. And then row span is 2 again. Save that. Refresh. And now you can see these headings are now merged on 2 rows. It was in the beginning at the first row only, and now they're kind of merged on 2 rows and merged and centered on 2 rows. So this is how you would use column span and row span. If you want to merge multiple rows, you will use row span. If you want to merge multiple columns, you will use column span. So that is how you will basically create a table. And we've completed this table. It doesn't look the same because of the styling, but we're not worried about the styling at the moment. Now I want you to try a challenge on your own. We've almost completed the table in HTML, but this table is a little bit different from that. Try to see if you can work on it and try to build this table on your own. I would recommend that you pause the video here, and then once you're done, you come back and see the solution. So I hope you've tried this on your own, because that's the only way to learn how to code. Our table right now looks something like this. We have product, we have code, we have name, but we also need to merge unit price. And we need to, I think we need to merge unit price as well. So I can remove the heading from the first row and bring it down to the next row here. Why did I do that? Because you can notice unit price is in the second row, not the first one. In the first row, we have product as the heading, and in the second row, we have code, name, and unit price, which is why I've moved unit price to the next row. You can remove row span, and here now, if we notice, product is merged on 3 different columns, which is code, name, and unit price. So column span will be changed to 3 in this case. If you save this, refresh, you can now see product merged on 3 columns, and you have code, name, and unit price. Quantity, and then total. So we can remove the word product from here, save that, get rid of this line here, and refresh. So you have something similar. Now all of these look the same to me, so I'm not going to change them, but I have another row at the end which is called total, and then the total price at the end. So this belongs to the body section. So if we scroll down, and after the 4th row, we have the total row, the row 5, which is basically total. In row 5, we just have 2 elements, 2 TD elements, which is total and then the value here. So TD, total, and then TD, I think it is 9.800 BD. Yeah. We have these 2 values only. So if I save it, refresh it, it shows up the value, but not in the same way as the one in the screenshot. In the screenshot, you can notice that total is merged on 1, 2, 3, 4 different columns. So I need to add a column span of 4 and then try and see if it works correctly. Yes. So now total is merged on 4 different columns, and then you have the total amount under the total column itself. So yeah, that's the best way to learn it if you try to practice it on your own. I hope you tried it on your own. Try to even create a different table if you want to with different data, and see if you are able to put all of that together. So just remember, if you want to create a table, you will use the table element. Every table has a table head and a table body. Within each of the table head and the table bodies, you need to create rows, and if you are within the T head, which is the heading of the table, you need to use TH to represent the heading, because what happens if I just change this to TD instead of TH? If I refresh it, see, the way it is represented changes, because you're saying that this is data, so it's going to take another style. So it's very important to know when you use TH, all the cell values will use when you're within the T head, which is the heading of the table, all the cell values will be represented using TH. So let me change this back. And if you are in T body, all those cell values will be represented with TD. If you want to merge multiple columns, you will use column span. If you want to merge multiple rows, you will use row span. So that is about tables for now.